Joseph Stalin, he was the most admired and at the same time hated leader of the former Soviet Union. At the same time that he defeated Hitler, he was responsible for millions of deaths. But why is Stalin's story still alive here in Georgia today? Today, I'm going to the house where Joseph Stalin was born. My mission is to try to understand whether Joseph Stalin was a great hero or a true villain. Have you ever heard of a guy named Stalin? Does that name sound familiar to you? I'm heading now to the city where Stalin was born, because I think it's important on this channel for us to talk a little about people's perspectives, worldviews, and the views of people who actually changed the world. Some people think things are much better, others think they're much worse. Some call him a hero, others call him a villain. But what matters is that we need to know the stories, whether they're an inspiration or because we should never repeat them. Now, let's go to the city of Gori in Georgia, travelers. And you're coming with me. I'm here in my hotel. Look, the hotels here are pretty simple. We're in a city with 19,000 inhabitants, really small. Today, the idea is to get to know the city of Gori, which I think is the 6th largest city in the country. There are only 50,000 people there. And we can see the house where Stalin was born and understand a bit more about his history, how he went from being a priest to becoming such a feared person all over the world. So we're going to hit the road, have a little coffee in the morning and head out, leaving here from my hotel. It's a pretty small hotel. It has a few rooms. There are only 6 rooms, 7 rooms. It has breakfast. I'm going to leave my suitcase at the front desk, leave Amelia there so we can head out. There's a really nice garden here at this house. It's a little inn, you know. It's called Hotel Classic, near where we stopped yesterday when we explored the house of the gentleman where we had lunch. Just look at the breakfast at this hotel. Here, look, everyone already had breakfast, but check this out, it's interesting. There are those wine holes, right? Like I explained to you in the previous video. This part of the houses here in Georgia is very important to them. The wine, the horn, there's a piano, that's all. Just the size. The cheese is kind of like Mina's cheese, that cured tasty cheese. Thank you. Do you have it? Ah, okay. How cute, guys. They are super sweet. They love this here. Look, cucumber. They love pickles. This is really popular here. But that's enough, man. Let's get going. Oh, it's here. I can leave. Thank you. Bye-bye. Guys, we're now in Gori, which is Stalin's hometown. Gori was heavily destroyed in 1920 because of an earthquake. I'm here at Stalin's museum. We're going to pay, if I'm not mistaken, it's 10 liras to get in. And I'm going to tell you a bit about his story. As soon as we get here, look, there's a statue of Stalin right over there. The museum is kind of controversial. There are people who don't like that this museum exists. Some Georgians here think it's bad, they think it's wrong, they think it should kind of be erased. Others insist that the museum should exist because they think history needs to be told. And there are still others who insist because they're very proud of him. About his story, they say he was a great liberator of people here, that without him, the world today wouldn't be the way it is. I want to know your thoughts about this in this video. It's quite an impressive museum, really interesting. And his story is very contradictory, because some people say he was the greatest hero this region has ever seen, and others say he was the greatest tyrant who ever passed through here. Guys, even the bathroom here is impressive. Fancy stuff, look. I'll be right back. Unfortunately, the museum monitors if you record and talk at the same time. Because of that, I was only able to get some footage, and now I'm going to tell you the story. Here at the museum, we can see the whole history of Stalin, a story told mainly from an optimistic perspective. Here, we start with his simple childhood and his adolescence without many resources, up to his rise to power and the end of his life. The visit to the museum begins with us going up a sumptuous staircase. This staircase in the main atrium leads us to this first room. Everything here is displayed in a very glorified way, showing the life and trajectory of this Soviet leader. Stalin actually defeated the Nazis, and maybe without him, Hitler could have triumphed. There's no way to know. By the way, even today, several European leaders are extremely grateful to Joseph Stalin. But after all, why was Stalin so controversial? Well, to understand, we need to start from the beginning. Josef Vissarionovich Dugashvili. That was Stalin's real name. He was one of the most powerful and controversial leaders in world history. He only started calling himself Stalin in 1912. He was born in 1879 in the city of Gori, where I am right now. At that time, the city was still part of the Russian Empire. Today it belongs to Georgia and has about 50,000 inhabitants. Stalin came from a humble family. His father was a member of the Russian Social Democratic Labor Party. He worked as a shoemaker and ended up abandoning Stalin when he was still a teenager. Stalin and his mother thought a lot about his educational future. That's when he entered the seminary, focusing on becoming a priest. However, he became really fascinated by Marxist values and ended up leaving the seminary to pursue his ideals. Stalin managed to help many Bolsheviks, who were the Russian Marxist revolutionaries led by Lenin. He used questionable strategies, being arrested and exiled 7 times by the police of the Russian Empire, the feared Okhrana. His last release happened in 1917 after the fall of Tsar Nicholas II during the February Revolution. And that was when the provisional government released several political prisoners en masse, with Stalin among them. And this fact is very important because it was in that year that Stalin, alongside Vladimir Lenin, would begin the Russian Revolution. Something that would change not only the history of Russia, but of the whole world. Stalin then leaves his exile in Siberia and returns to St. Petersburg, where he soon gets involved in organizing the Bolshevik Party alongside Lenin. In just a few years, in 1922, he becomes the General Secretary of the Communist Party, and after Lenin's death, he begins consolidating his power. Throughout the entire tour here at the museum, it's undeniable how many improvements and positive things Stalin did. We're talking about a major improvement in technology, infrastructure, and communication throughout the entire Soviet Union. But there were also many things that weren't so nice during Stalin's government. His government stood out a lot between 1928 and 1937 with the implementation of the 5-year plans, forced collectivization, and also the Great Terror between 1936 and 1938. That's something I'll tell you about in just a bit, but from 1941 to 1945, this was one of Stalin's greatest moments of glory. After all, it was when he led the Soviet Union against Hitler. I'm talking about it, World War II, which was devastating. But even so, they managed to come out victorious, turning the Soviet Union into a nuclear power in 1949 and leading the Cold War along with the United States. And some interesting facts about Stalin caused both love and hate at the same time. For example, Stalin is from Georgia and he didn't speak Russian. He only started learning Russian when he was 9 years old. This generated great admiration from many people, but at the same time a certain rejection from people who thought, why, if you are in Georgia and you are Georgian, do you insist on speaking Russian even with Georgians? Stalin said that he preferred to speak in a language that most people understood, in this case, Russian. So, if he wanted everyone to speak Russian, it was necessary for him to set the example. And this might be another reason why people here in Georgia are so divided when it comes to Stalin's life. Some say he was the greatest hero of the country, others even say he is a great disgrace. And this happened due to several crimes that were later denounced by his successor. I'm talking about the supervision of mass repression, ethnic cleansing, and even the Great Famine of 1932 to 1933, where millions of people lost their lives due to forced collectivization, grain confiscation, and the repression of peasants. Stalin was also responsible for creating the Great Terror or Great Purge. This was a movement where he eliminated his enemies, killing almost 1 million people in the 5 years leading up to the Second World War, mainly between 1936 and 1938. In this purge, millions of people were arrested, killed, tortured, or even sent to the Gulag, which was like a forced labor camp that he maintained. And his main claim for doing all this was that these people could be enemies of the people, and in this way, he would be protecting the nation. Stalin's main targets were high-ranking military officers, Bolshevik leaders, veterans, intellectuals, teachers, engineers, artists, ethnic minorities such as Poles, Germans, Koreans, and many ordinary citizens, who were accused without any evidence. But hold on, Stalin also had several positive achievements. I'm talking about everything from winning World War II to improving many things in the countries that were part of the Soviet Union. The thing is, a lot of people weigh it like this. What was the price of all this? Stalin made a huge change throughout the Soviet Union, especially when it comes to industrialization. After all, starting in 1928, he implemented the 5-year plans, which would transform the Soviet Union from a rural country into an industrial superpower in just a few years. Stalin also created several power plants, railways, mines, steel and weapons factories, and all of this in record time. Stalin managed in less than 15 years to transform the Soviet Union into the second largest economy on the planet, behind only the United States. Stalin was also responsible for increasing literacy rates in the Soviet Union like never before. After all, he built several schools, universities, and invested heavily in people's education. Many peasants and various minorities began to have access to basic education, thanks to measures taken by his government. Another major advancement was also in the field of science and technology, because the Soviet Union began to become a global leader when it came to mathematics, science, engineering, and technology. And all of this paved the way for the famous space race. After all, Stalin strongly encouraged aviation, nuclear research, and aerospace research. Improving the infrastructure as well, I'm talking about transportation, highways, railways, the Trans-Siberian, and of course, communications, which, like never before, started to happen much faster and more efficiently throughout the Union. But unfortunately, traveler, everything has two sides. And many, really many of Stalin's achievements came at a very high human cost, such as forced labor, planned famine, political repression, and millions of deaths. There's a very small area in the museum. While most of it is focused on exalting Stalin's deeds, a small area shows some of the atrocities and even the violation of human rights. All of this is recorded in confidential KGB documents found after the end of the Soviet Union. In this document, Stalin ordered mass executions, arbitrary arrests, torture, and deportations of ethnic groups. All of this without any plausible justification. This is a major violation of the principles of the UN. I'm talking about the Universal Declaration of Human Rights from 1948. This is so serious that the European Parliament condemned all the crimes of Nazism and Stalinism in 2009, calling for remembrance and official recognition of the victims. And Stalin remained in power for almost 30 years, making him the leader who stayed in power the longest in the entire history of the Soviet Union. Maybe Putin will surpass that milestone soon, because the guy has been in power for a long time, right? But, well, let me talk about Stalin's personal life. Stalin had 2 wives. One whom he really loved a lot, and another who, well, people say it wasn't quite like that. From these 2 wives came 3 children, and among the 3 children there was a favorite, Svetlana, whom he loved very much and did everything for her. Stalin was not a very present father, mainly because his main focus was on leading the nation. He worked a lot, he was very focused on his work. And one of his sons, the oldest, was captured by the Germans during the Second World War. And during this war, Stalin was offered the exchange of his son, who was in a concentration camp, for a German general who had been captured by the Soviets. And do you know what Stalin said? He said the following: "I don't exchange a soldier for a general, or perhaps all the soldiers are also my sons." This phrase caused a great commotion in the nation. Of course, he gave up the chance to see his son again, thinking that this would be seen as something unfair by the people. And, unfortunately, the reunion never took place. Stalin's son ended up dying in that concentration camp, and no one ever heard from him again. As for Stalin, at 75 years old, he leaves this planet. And something very curious in this museum is his death mask. Look at this mask they used to make for people when they died. It was kind of a tradition. They would take the person's face, their expression when they died, and make a mask to eternalize that person's last expression. What do you think about that? There are some theories suggesting Stalin was poisoned, or even that he had a medical emergency that was neglected, and that's why he ended up dying relatively early, at 75 years old. Leaving the museum, we can still visit the train car he used for work and travel. He didn't really like airplanes, he much preferred to travel by train, so he had an armored train car. Look, the car is right here. The summer here is so hot and beautiful. Check out the train car. Check out how big his train car is. And in that train car, there was a bedroom, an office. He practically lived in that car during his trips. We're going to go inside his train now. Hey, open one so we can see. It's original. It's the train just as it was. Kitchen, inspector's room. A security guard's room. This was Stalin's room. I actually found it quite simple. Ah, he had his own bathroom there too. Look. We can't enter because something's here. And here is also Stalin's house, where he lived for about 4 years of his life, right? He was born in 1879 and stayed here until 1883. So it was sort of like a temple around his actual house, the original one. He lived here and he shared it. His family lived on the left, the owner on the right. There were basements, which are common in Georgia. Look at these basements. We say it was a room, so... It also reminds me of South Korea, where they have small semi-underground or basement houses. Look, what we see here didn't exist, right? This ceiling, the hammer and sickle, this wasn't here. They made it later as a way to preserve it. And the museum we were at, which is right over there, right in front of the house, it wasn't actually built to be a museum. This building already existed, and then after Stalin was gone, this place was turned into a museum. A lot of people say that Stalin didn't want this attention, these spotlights, but it's also said that he really liked it. He liked being in the spotlight, being prominent. When he was gone, his body is still embalmed to this day. So you can visit his body. Lenin, Stalin, all of them are embalmed, just like we saw in North Korea. The leaders of North Korea also have their bodies embalmed. In Vietnam too, Ho Chi Minh has his body embalmed. It ended up becoming a big Soviet tradition, right? Among the communists. Why? Since Lenin died and they preserved his body, several other leaders started having their bodies preserved. Not because they asked for it, but because it became a tradition. Lenin never said he wanted to be embalmed. He wanted to be buried beside his mother. But they ended up embalming him so that more people could see him, have contact with him. It's a very interesting story. I want to know what you think about Stalin's life, what you think of Stalin. Leave your opinion about him here for me. I really enjoy debating and learning with you. And a curious fact is that the name of the square is Stalin Park. So this whole complex here with the museum, his house and his train car became a park. Stalin. Walking through the park. Our hotel is right over there. We're going to stay next to Stalin Park. This hotel here, Georgia Gold Hotel, my son says it's 4 stars. I like it, huh? One interesting thing is that Stalin wasn't a person of many luxuries. He didn't have very extravagant tastes or anything. They say that when he died, he left behind 2 boots, some clothes, some coats, and even his train car and what we see in his houses didn't have very luxurious things. The main luxury was probably a swimming pool, since he needed frequent treatment for his pain and rheumatism. Let's check out this hotel, huh? We're entering our hotel here, huh? Cute little bear here. Little bear Coquinho. And we made it. Look at Emilia, all happy with her hotel. Let's check it out. There's a little table for us to work. Go live for you guys. The bed. Wow, it's a really beautiful late afternoon. Let's check out the view we have here. We have a view of the park. Look, cool. Here's the bedroom, air conditioning, bathrobe. This is the bathroom. It's different, huh? Where's the light, guys? Never found the light here. The lights are always outside somewhere here. Did they go out, guys? Georgia? Let's check. Choo choo choo. Here's the large bathroom. The shower has a glass door, which is rare since many places use fabric curtains. Some lovebirds. Estrella Vermelha booked this hotel as part of my package, which included Azerbaijan, Georgia, and Armenia. So they take care of everything, hotel, transfer, and all that. It's really nice for you to book and have everything set up in this region. And of course, mainly because of the historical help, right? We travel with the historian, Rodrigo, so we learn a lot. I'm learning a lot. I'm finding this trip really cool, really fascinating because of that. And it was upon this that the Soviet Union built factories with calloused hands. It won wars with blood and steel, but at the same time, it buried millions in the silence of prisons, in the silence of hunger, and also of fear. He was certainly a hero to some, but an executioner to others, a man who shaped an empire between glories and tragedies. In the end, his story leaves us with a question that echoes beyond the ruins of the 20th century. How far does progress justify the weight of suffering? And power, when absolute, does it still serve the people or only itself? I leave that thought with you. Traveling for me is much more than giving a tip. For me, being able to travel means being able to tell the stories I see. Tomorrow, I'll keep exploring Georgia and hope to see you in the next video. If you like my work, click on Become a Member to join the community and help us more and more, me and my whole team, to create content and show it. If you're not subscribed, subscribe so you don't miss the next video. And never forget, you are an amazing human being and you can go wherever you want. Later, and I'll see you on tomorrow's adventure. What will happen? Bye-bye.